Right. Good morning, all. Yes, bachalo. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Chalo. I hope everyone is doing well. Sab badhiya. Oh, theek achi. Chalo. Today is a very auspicious day. Devasnan Purnima. In Odia culture, we are very grateful to Lord Jagannath for all his blessings. Chalo. Joy Jagannath. Let's start then. ठीक है. Okay. Before we start, audio video, everyone clear? Yes. ठीक है. Now today's topic is evolution. Fine. So let us start with the evolutionary mechanism. Yes. Now basically, when you talk of evolution, what is exactly evolution? See, emitire evolution na meaning hala development with the changing environment when an organism adapts, not only adapts, passes on that adaptation from the present generation to the next generation. Fine. It is referred to as evolution. So evolution basically is a continuous process where the organism develops a form of adaptability. Okay, fine. ठीक अच्छी. Every organism in this entire world evolves. But this is the thing that earlier the rate of evolution was faster. Now the rate of evolution has become slower. Environmental reasons, are the reason behind it. Therefore, suppose a person asks this question. That means current days gorilla or orangutan or chimpanzees, will they also become humans? Then the question's answer is probably no. Why? Because they have developed parallelly into a different organism. And from now onwards, they cannot further develop into human beings. So our ancestors, no doubt, were these, no, gorillas or chimpanzees or similar organisms. But now these organisms will not develop further. Okay, fine. ठीक अच्छी. So let us continue. Is an orderly change from one form to another. ठीक है, where the organism has adapted to the conditions. Now, the first topic that we would look into is origin of life. Okay, why? Because evolution kahan hochi? Evolution is happening of the organisms. So organisms mane develop karibe by evolve. So therefore, first we need to understand the history of how the life process began. Okay, fine. Because understanding of that will help us in understanding the evolutionary mechanism. So basically, we would look into various concepts or theories that suggest how the life first began on Earth. Okay. Now, the most common and the most accepted theory about origin of life on Earth or origin of this entire universe is the Big Bang theory. The Big Bang theory states that universe originated about 20 billion years ago by a singular huge explosion. Now, 80 good so dhyan diya re bacha. Whenever we are talking of evolution, the most important thing is the dates or times, right? Geological time scale is a very, very important aspect. 20 billion. Please focus on this. So origin of entire universe came about 20 billion years ago. Now these are big times आपको हमें जियोलॉजिकल टाइम स्केल हिसाब रे देखी दो ओके गॉट द पॉइंट ठीक अछि रिमेंबर दी टाइम पीरियड फाइन okay then the earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago. Now this picture which you see in background, this is a probable no imaginary picture because so nobody knows how the earth would have looked like, but this is an imaginary figure कि earth यही बड़ा दिखा होती है with volcanic events or tidal waves fine atmosphere slightly formed, the sky being so clear, the different moons and planets visible, ये सब जिनसे देखा होता है say somewhere earth fine. The earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Okay? Again, 20 billion years ago, universe was formed. 4.5 billion years ago, the earth was formed. Now you can understand about how much time it took. 4.5, 20. Difference is approximately 15.5. So 15.5 billion years, the earth came. Fine. There was no atmosphere on the early earth. Okay? The gases prevalent, कौन gases थे? Water vapors, methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and many other gases were present. Okay? One thing please remember, all gases were present except oxygen. Oxygen was not present in those circumstances. बुझेला? तो ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ କହିପାରିବା that the earth's atmosphere then was reducing ठीक है remember this fine why because all gases but oxygen was present मतलब oxygen was absent but माने except okay all gases except oxygen was present ठीक है oh. बच्चा लोग जोठी किसी डाउट हला अंडरस्टैंडिंग रे प्लीज आस्क why evolution is a very very interesting and important chapter but arambore we have only historical findings and theories and experiments but later on the concepts become very complicated co sense re because there genetics get involved and population dynamics get involved okay that is very very interesting and slightly complex तो एई जिनसो गुड़िकर प्रॉपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग रे सेटार अंडरस्टैंडिंग हे परियो ठीक से आगे कुछ नहीं जीरो साइलेंस okay the UV rays from the sun broke up water into H2 and O2 ठीक है so this is how molecular oxygen was formed ultraviolet radiation रो water splitting ହେଲା તમે photosynthesis પઢିଥିବ yes photolysis of water ଦେଖିଥିବ but that photolysis is a biochemical process ଯେମିତି water ର formation ଟା requires a lot of energy ସେମିତି water ଟାକୁ ଭାଙ୍ଗିବା ପାଇଁ ମଧ୍ୟ requires a lot of energy ठीक है तमने chemistry रे experiment करथिबो electrolysis of water using electric current water को split କରୁଛ ठीक ଅଛି since this is photolysis of water where you are using sunlight or the ultraviolet radiation to break down the water molecule into its constituents that is hydrogen and oxygen okay oxygen combined with ammonia and methane to form water and CO2 etc ठीक है माने once oxygen form हो गला now you already know that oxygen is an oxidizing agent. ठीक है? So सी जेतले मिसिला अमोनिया सांगरे मिथेन सांगरे ताकर ऑक्सीडेशन करदला. ठीक है? तो अमोनिया रो ऑक्सीडेशन हला पर you'll have water vapors, you'll have nitrates, nitrites. ठीक है? Similarly methane से oxidation हले you'll again have water and carbon dioxide. ठीक है? Oh. After that, the ozone layer was formed. Now, ozone layer, as you all know, is a very, very important layer. Why? Because it is the protective covering that filters the ultraviolet radiation. So, solar radiation जो आसे ozone ही हमको prevent करता है from those harmful radiations. Those are very dangerous, highly carcinogenic. Ultraviolet categories are UVA, UVB, UVC, and they have different degrees of penetration. Bujela. And say light jodi tamara skin over body then it will cause a lot of problems like skin burns, okay, dermatitis. Bujoji. So those are very dangerous. Tapan ozone is very essential. As it cooled, the water vapor fell as rain to form oceans. So જેમથી earth atmosphere seତେବେଳେ बहुत hot થીલા because earth was simply a kind of a product of an explosion. ठीक है? So it was entirely a kind of molten form. Very, very hot. Temperatures could have risen up to 8 to 10,000 degrees Celsius. ଏବେ ଯେମିତି ତମେ sun କୁ ଦେଖୁଛ ବା କୌଣସି star କୁ ଦେଖୁଛ which are very, very hot. So that condition same thila. But slowly it started to cool down, and as it started to cool down, then there was rainfall. And this rainfall continued for several years. Several years means not 1 year, 2 years, several thousand years. And that is how our oceans and seas etc. were formed. Ujjwala. Life appeared almost 4 billion years ago. Now, 20 billion years ago, universe was formed. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was formed. 4 billion years ago, the life came on Earth. Tamane Mojire 50 million years was there. Okay? When life formation paigi 50 million years almost lagi wala. Okay? So just imagine how slow process is. Now look at this. There are various theories of evolution or origin of life. This theory of origin of life categories various concepts are there. The theory of abiogenesis. Yes. The theory of biogenesis. Panspermia theory. Special creation theory. And the chemical reaction theory or chemical evolution theory. Author dekhi diya. Abiogenesis, biogenesis, panspermia, special creation, chemical evolution. Abiogenesis, biogenesis, panspermia, special creation, chemical evolution. Bujela? Okay. We'll go into all these theories one by one. Don't worry about that. They're very interesting. Now, look at this. This is theory of spontaneous generation or abiogenesis. Now, although a theory T pore once the chemical evolution theory does start hela, then this concept was further developed. But a jo original theory thila, abiogenesis theory by spontaneous generation theory, this was incorrect. Kaun koile se? It states that life came out of decaying and rotting matter like straw, mud, soil, etc. Okay? So age inserter was considered as abiogenesis theory. But question again arises ki abiogenesis mane genesis mane hala creation or formation and abio mane hala non-living. So non-living ro formation hochi ba creation hochi karo living ro. बट जब आप स्ट्रॉ बोलते हो, ठीक है, तो स्ट्रॉ कम्स फ्रॉम व्हाट? स्ट्रॉ कम्स फ्रॉम पैडी और राइस, so that is again a living. So CA केमती असला पुणी first of all. That's why this theory, something will decay and rot. क्या decay करेगा, rot करेगा? The living entity will decay and rot. But first question is, how did that living thing came into existence? First of all, so this theory or this explanation was considered to be inaccurate. ठीक है? Now, say abiogenesis theory टा को भूल prove करिया पाई, this experiment was done. Look into it. Louis Pasteur disproved the abiogenesis theory. Very important, please remember this. Louis Pasteur disproved abiogenesis theory. तो उन्होंने बोला कि abiogenesis theory is not accurate. Why not accurate? He proved this thing by an experiment. Now, 80 ତମକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ କହୁଛି, please do remember. এই जो experiment Louis Pasteur କରିଥିଲେ, this was a famous experiment known as the swan neck experiment. Means swan neck माने here कोई swan involved नहीं था. The flask which you see, the round flask which you see, से तारो पाइप टेकू बा nozzle टीकू modify करिकी swan रो neck वालिया form करथिले. That's why this experiment was famously referred to as the swan neck experiment. ठीक है? कौन वाला experiment देखो? He demonstrated the life comes only from pre-existing life. Now this is again another theory. अरे pre-existing life पुणी केमिति आइला? Life रो तो origin है ही नहीं ना. Life originate college है ना. The new life will come from pre-existing life. A pre-existing life टा केमिति असला? So this explanation was also not incorrect. I mean, not correct. But how? Whatever he did, let us understand that first. He boiled a culture. Okay. Mane, this boiling resulted in whatever things would be present inside it, like bacteria, microbes, mane, they will die. Yes. Ei jo jinsoti hela, aku ame ebe na douche kono. Can anyone tell? What do we call it now? We call this pasteurization. तमे क्षीर खाऊच ओमफेड रो आणुच तादरे कोन लिखा है जे देखि दिबो pasteurized milk माने boiled बा तादिरु microbes etc मानको remove कर दिया है. Okay, so it is why? Because that increases the shelf life. माने तमे रखी पारियो ताकू बेसी दिन पाई once pasteurization has been done. So ये जो famous concept है boiling, rapid heating and then cooling, that resulted in its disinfection or sanitized condition. So सही जिनसटा है तुम्हारा pasteurization, which was started by Louis Pasteur. तांको नारे है pasteurization. There's a famous institute also, the Pasteur Institute of Natural Sciences. Okay, whatever. Then boil कला परे देखा गला कि से स्वान नेक रे there is no growth, कोनोसी प्रकार रा किछि growth हो नाही. किंतु ता परे कोन कले same experiment रे once boil कला परे swan neck टी को भांगी देले. Once the swan neck was broken, then in the final microbial growth hela. So what was the difference then? Here the same boiling was done, but there is no growth. Whereas here the boiling was done, the swan neck was broken, and then microbial growth was seen. Because the microbes could not enter through the swan neck as this had a kink in it. A shape jogu, the entry of microbes was prevented. But jetole eta bhangi gola, now there is free access. Aram se microbes entered into the mixture and the culture was infected or the microbes started growing. So this showed कि जेहेतु आगुरु already माइक्रोऑर्गेनिजम्स अच्छी तो से माने ग्रो करूछंती न थांते ग्रो है न थांते बिकॉज इसमें नहीं है तो ग्रोथ हेलानी अरे पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ करिवे सो देयरफॉर ही कंक्लूडेड लाइफ कम्स फ्रॉम प्री एग्जिस्टिंग लाइफ ठीक है ओके एई जिंसटा को तमे सेल रे मध्य पढिछ मन पकाओ यस omnis cellula e cellula omnis cellula e cellula new cells arise from pre-existing cells one polla yes Rudolf Virchow the cell lineage theory yes cell theory ro gote part okay he showed that life did not come from killed yeast in a closed pre-sterilized flask but in an open flask microbes appeared which palo closed thila pre-sterilized thila tadre grow hela nahi but jetal taku khola rakhi diya gala microbes asi gale thik achi got the point okay so this is just a theory thik hai and all these theories later were understood not to be accurate dekho theory of abiogenesis pore then concept came of theory of biogenesis. Now, theory of biogenesis already Louis Pasteur to initiate kar deyithile, telling that life comes from pre-existing life. Okay. So, ethere theory of biogenesis re ke involved hai gale? Francisco Redi, Spallanzani, and Louis Pasteur himself. Okay. It states that life originates from the pre-existing life. Okay. But it does not explain origin of first life. That was the question I asked. ये बोल दिया कि लाइफ नुआ जो फॉर्म होची comes from the pre-existing life. Now everywhere you can see, what do you see in these pictures? Simple mechanism of reproduction. Seed ru asila plant, from a hen eggs are there, from a lion cub is formed and a baby is formed, by the mating of two individuals. Okay, but again, how did the first plant come into existence? वो सेम क्वेश्चन है ना टीवी वगैरह में फिल्मों में देखा होगा आपने कौन अरे पहले मुर्गी आई या अंडा डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन इवोल्यूशन इज सच अ मिस्ट्री ओके हाउ देखो नाउ तो अब बायोजेनेसिस देख लो बायोजेनेसिस देख लो अब दिमाग में ये डाउट आएगा सर फिर सही कौन सा है अरे दोनों सही नहीं है दोनों गलत है ओके वेलकम टू थियरीज हाउ थियोरी ऑफ पैनस्पर्मिया बाय कॉस्मिक थियरी ये बोलता है दैट लाइफ इज एक्स्ट्रा टेरेस्ट्रियल इन ओरिजिन एक्स्ट्रा टेरेस्ट्रियल इन ओरिजिन ठीक है सॉरी extra terrestrial in origin माने लाइफ टा अर्थ रे फॉर्म है नहीं लाइफ टा आउ कोठू अर्थ उपरको आसी ओके means the origin is not on earth directly rather it originated somewhere else in the universe and came onto the earth okay say jinsata hala panspermia theory now as the name suggests etere spermia achi spermia here refers to spores kahara spores of life means these are simply microorganisms or the microorganism spores जोटा की यूनिवर्स रे आउ को पार्ट रू आसिकी अर्थ ऊपर पड़िला and because of that the life originated on earth say inside देखो in this form of a meteor ba asteroid or simply a comet anything ठीक है it says that the units of life that is spores were transferred to different planets including earth ठीक है fine and it did not come it was not formed on earth directly rather it was formed somewhere else and arrived on earth ei concept upare tame dekhi diyo bahut gudi ko movies etc madhya age. Many movies, Transformers movie देखी थी वो, उसमें भी है. Now, after the panspermia theory, the next another theory is there. Why? Because ଯେତେବେଳେ scientists ମାନେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ theories ଦେଲେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମର the what we can religious people, okay, the popes and press, okay, they also were thinkers, na? Philosophical thinkers, yes. So they started attaching their own religious beliefs and mythological aspects with that of the creation. Okay. Some said that the life originated by Adam and Eve, and some others said that God by sprinkling some water from the uh, human beings and all the other life forms. बहुत जिनस ठीक है तो वही चीज है that is special creation theory. It says that living and non-living was created by some supernatural power, that is God. ठीक है our Hindu religion, like it is said, the first the three were formed, and by them they created the various plants, animals, and life on earth. Okay, so every particular religion, thanko concept would suggest that there are various stories behind formation of life on earth. Okay, that is special creation theory. Now come to this one, theory of chemical evolution. A theory was considered to be the most acceptable theory till date. Again, very important, very important. This theory was considered to be the most acceptable theory of all theories. Okay, actually, this is not only chemical evolution of life, but एटा मध्य से abiogenesis concept को ही favor करूची. Although the explanation is slightly different. It states that the life on earth was formed by chemical elements. Okay. Now, कौन हैला? Inorganic chemical elements combine together to form organic molecules. So, man chemistry पढ़ुଛ, जानथिबो. Organic chemistry is, there. Organic chemistry रे, the most important thing is carbon. ठीक अछि. Carbon सांगरे कौन लागिला? Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, chlorine, all these elements, but most important is carbon. Fine. So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, मिसेगी organic molecules theory को ले. ठीक है. Now these organic molecules slowly started to come together and resulted in formation of certain molecules. A molecules गुड़िक धीरे धीरे further accumulate kale and grow karyav lagile by certain kind of combinations or chemical reactions. Organic molecules जो form में थे तांको विधर के form में गले ना RNA, ribonucleic acid, ठीक है. Similarly DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and once these were formed, then they started to form other structures. माने cell organelles, membrane. So first, precursor of life, that is what we can say protobionts were formed. Protobionts माने precursors. माने एबेकार जो हमें unicellular like Monera, Protista देखुचे, से तांकर ठारो पूर्व, ठीक है. They were very different to that of the modern forms of bacteria or protists. किंतु bacteria and protists मानकर मध्य development state हुई. बुझ पारछो? So they were referred to as precursors of life, protobionts को आगला. Okay, fine. तो सेही जिनसटा को मध्य एमाने experimentally prove कले. तो कौन है ला? प्रथमे inorganic elements थिले, chemically react कले to form organic molecules. এই organic molecules माने again further chemically react कले, chain formation कले, and then that resulted into protobionts. A protobionts माने over the time period धीरे धीरे replicate, multiply करिया को लागिले and started to modify themselves. Once modifications were there, तापर हमर various insights पढ़िଛ कोन? Different kinds of complexities, माने cellular grade organization, tissue grade organization, then organ grade organization, organ system grade organization. तो ये सब stage by stage है छी. आमे जो plant kingdom, animal kingdom, etc. पढ़ू छे, ठीक है? Those are also categorized in the form of evolutionary relationship. बुझ पारछो? जोटा तमे systematics कहूछो, सेतरे evolutionary relationship मध्य गोटे factor. तो complexity and development evolution हिसाब रे मध्य तांको सजाई. ठीक अछि? देखो. Proposed by Oparin and Halden. Chemical evolution theory किए देथिले Oparin and Halden. ठीक है? They are, in the picture, JBS Halden and AI Oparin. ठीक है? It states that the first form of life was originated from non-living inorganic. Non-living inorganic. A non-living inorganic ru कौन theory है बाबू? Organic. ठीक है? And then these organic molecules like methane, ammonia, water, sugars, proteins, nucleic acids, etc. एमाने जो form हेले, they resulted in the formation of the early life. ठीक है? So abiogenesis first, but biogenesis ever since. बुझ पा लो अबे? Chemical evolution को abiogenesis काहे को आगला? So this chemical evolution in true meaning is abiogenesis. Why? Because life has come from non-living entities or inorganic molecules. Which part? That's why abiogenesis theory. But जो original abiogenesis थी तमे पढ़ी लो, से abiogenesis और ये abiogenesis बहुत अलग है बाबू. वो theory था. सेतेरे से कहला mud and straw, non-living or dead, decaying matter. But here they chemically proved it from inorganic elements. So this chemical evolution theory in true sense is the proof of abiogenesis mechanism. ठीक है? How? Now Oparin Halden ko pore the same thing, the same abiogenesis was proven by Miller and Urey experiment. So amaro Harold C. Urey and Stanley Miller were the two scientists who actually experimentally put a setup theory kole and say experimental setup they proved that yes, chemical evolution theory or the abiogenesis theory using inorganic non-living chemicals, life ta prathame originate heitila. Now this is the setup which they did. ठीक है? ए सेटअप टी रे से माने कौन यूज कर रहे बाबू देखो, मीथेन. ठीक है? Now in this chemical flask which you see here, से माने जो constituents यूज कर ले, मीथेन, अमोनिया, हाइड्रोजन, इवन वाटर वेपर. ठीक है? So all these were present except oxygen. So basically tankor intention thila to replicate or mimic the atmosphere that was present during the creation of life. With parcho. तो सही जिनसटी आमे तो जानी ने कि से समर केमि थिला, but we by our scientific theories and scientific experiments assumed that say somewhere con thai pare. So the atmosphere was reducing. That means sethere sabu jinso thila except oxygen. But oxygen was very very low in concentration. Plus temperature was very high. So temperature again rakha gala. Plus say somewhere charged particles बहुत अधिक थिले environment पे. So there were lightning and thunders, throughout. ठीक है. एबे कारो जो lightning thunder देखुचो तमे बिजुली etc. जो देखुचो से comparison रे से समୟରେ lightning and thunders were much more powerful, much more powerful. ठीक है. And continuously it would occur for days and months. So say some more conditions were very difficult for existence of life actually. ठीक है. तो सेथेरे केमिति लाइफ टी क्रिएट हला that experiment was done by them. तो से कौन कले water vapors etc. Now you can see temperature 80 body ला high heating. ठीक है. 80 से माने electric discharge use कले to combine these entities. है ना. Always there will be requirement of energy. Energy no dele elements and substances combine heavy combine. So they require certain energy. So here electrical energy. Why? Because say somewhere thunder, lightning, etc. hotila na. Electric discharge was there. So because of that electric discharge, this was happening. So semane saying sana replicate karyaku chesta karo. Now combining these, once the hot, in the high temperature and electric environment, when the combination was done, reaction soila, then it was passed through a condenser. Condenser mane which causes cooling. So once the cooling was done and the gaseous state ru se liquid state ku padayala. Gaseous state ru se liquid state ku padayala. This is gaseous. This is liquid. And this liquid was taken up in this container. Okay. Whatever was obtained was put into this container. Which ball. Now, once when the container was, the sample was collected and then it was studied, analyzed, mila, setere carbohydrates achandi, amino acids achandi, proteins achandi. Okay. Even nucleic acids were also present in it. So say to jona polda, yes, non-living inorganic molecules plus certain organic molecules jota say environment thile jetala misailu amuku life ro constituents mille, like sugars. Glucose is a constituent. Yes, carbohydrates. Amino acids amar body ro construction. Yes, similarly, lipids and nucleic acids, they are also very essential for life. Okay. Saying so the Harold C. Urey and Stanley Miller experimentally proved theory of chemical evolution. Okay. Theory of chemical evolution. They created a condition like that of primitive earth. Created a condition. Exact to create karya mushkil. But they tried to mimic the condition. ठीक है. कौन थिला? High temperature, volcanic storms, reducing atmosphere. एटी गोटे जिनिस छाड़ देले कौन? Lightning and thunder. Lightning, electric discharge, very essential. ठीक है. So reducing atmosphere कौन थिला? Methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, isopentane, all these were there. Ammonia, ठीक है, water, hydrogen, but no oxygen because it is reducing. ठीक है. एक question टा बहुत बार पचरा जा रहे परीक्षा रे. Which of these is not appropriate to? Which of these is not appropriate to the Harold C. Urey? Harold C. Urey and Miller experiment. ठीक है. तो आंसर इज ऑक्सीजन. सबू थिला एक्सेप्ट ऑक्सीजन. देखो यहाँ पे सेम जिनस एक्सपेरिमेंटा फाइन. methane, ammonia, water, hydrogen. Fine. Now, they made electric discharge. They made electric discharge in a closed flask containing methane, ammonia, H2 and water vapors. Temperature कितने रखिले? About 800 degrees Celsius. As a result, some amino acids are formed. Some amino acids were formed. Okay? In similar experiments, others observed formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments and fats and lipids. So, कौन formation है again? Important, remember this. Sugars बाहर ले, nitrogen bases माने adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, uracil. These are nitrogenous bases. Pigments like chlorophyll, anthocyanin, phycoerythrin, phycocyanin, carotenoids, xanthophylls. Which one? All these are pigments. And fats, that is lipid molecules, triglycerides and diglycerides and monoglycerides. Fine. अरे बुझी पाल रहे? Is that understood, everyone? अरे बात समझ में आ रही है? Is everyone understanding? बुझी होची? Yes. Good. Good. ठीक है, बढ़िया. अरे आप आज जनसंख्या में इतनी गिरावट कैसे आ गई हैं? पिछली क्लास में ऑलमोस्ट 65-70 बच्चे थे. आज किधर है? रोजा छुट्टी पढ़ाने कर चुकी रही है. सब पिठा पोना खाई की सोई पड़ जाओ ना. चलो अच्छी बात है. बट रिमेम्बर रे, if you miss these classes, it will be a loss. Why? Because ये classes आपके benefit के लिए है. First thing. Second thing, you have seen the prospect of the NEET examination this year. The questions were not difficult. No, there was a chaos saying the questions were difficult, blah blah. I said that no, the questions were standard questions, and to become a doctor, a student must be not that capable to answer those questions. It is not that the question paper was difficult. Yes, ये बोल सकते हैं the trend has been broken. मैंने last 8-10 वर्षाला जो trend चलता simple questions रहो, so simple questions the trend का भंगा है कि that's a good change. Why? The child would be now thinking more, applying more, reading more. You do not take things for granted. बुझेला? And secondly, age insert है तुम्हारा +2 रे भी काम है, so 12th रे, second year रे. Yes, and hardly देखो तो कुछ समय पड़ेगा. It's already June now. July, August, September, October, November, December, November हो तुम्हारा सॉरी गला. And उसके बाद आपकी वो VSTs and module test चलेंगे. And by the end of February, you'll be ready for your board exams. तो ये चीजें आपको बहुत फायदा देगी on the long run. ठीक है? Not only for your medical entrances but also your board examinations. Why? Because audio visual जिनसे आप mind रे रह ही जाए. So अगर आप कोई concept भूल भी जाते हो ना पढ़ने के बाद, if you view this in this manner, you'll see that it's easier to remember them. ठीक है? तो इसलिए take your interest in it and be sincere. ध्यान पूर्वक देखो. Why? Because this program is a very, very good program initiated for the benefit of all students. Fine. तो इस चीज का, इस opportunity का फायदा उठाइए to the maximum. Okay. The first non-cellular forms of life originated 3 billion years ago. Now, please look at the timeline. Please look at the timeline. ठीक है? अगर आप timeline देख रहे होगे, तो if you remember, 20 billion years ago, universe formation. 4.5 billion years ago, earth formation. 4 billion years ago, life formation. ठीक है? Now, approximately 3 billion years ago, proper form of life formation हुआ. ठीक है? The first non-cellular forms of life originated 3 billion years ago. Non-cellular. Now you see, ये आपकी एक special entities है. इनको क्या बोलते हैं हम? What do we call these? ये जो जिनसे गुड़िको देखो जो तमें आपको ना कौन दिया है ची? Yes, they are known as microspheres. Remember the term. These are known as microspheres. A microspheres ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଏଇଭଳିଆ ଫର୍ମ ରେ ରଖାଗଲା covered, they were known as protobionts. Protobionts माने precursor to living. बुझिपारछ? Cellular precursors माने एमाननको हमें सेल कहि परिबनी काहे की? Because एठी तांगर properly designed membrane formation हेइनी. Okay, but जोटा तमे सेल रो membrane देखिला बेले देखुथिबो प्लाज्मा लेमा बेले सेठी तमर polar heads, ठीक अछि, non polar tail, that is lipid molecules रो, plus proteins मिसिकी अछंती, that is lipoproteinaceous. तो एठी मध्य सेमती proteins and lipids रो mixture है कि this particular layer was formed. किंतु other properties of plasma membrane like selectivity, ठीक है, diffusion, then changing of its form, flexibility, से जिनस गुड़िक आंक केस रे डेवलप हेई नथिला. That's why एमानंकु असेलुलर बा नॉन सेलुलर कुआगला. तो what was the common thing between these and the cells? एटा. This you see here. ये आपका क्या है? जेनेटिक मटेरियल, दैट इज डीएनए एंड आरएनए. ठीक है, न्यूक्लिक एसिड्स. तो न्यूक्लिक एसिड जो एमती अछंती आंकर दे रिजल्टेड इन मल्टीप्लिकेशन माने गोटेरु दुईटी and more. This mechanism started to happen. ठीक है, 1 से 2, 2 से 4, 4 से 8, 16, 32 in that way. So they were capable now of replicating, multiplying. So this was the property which linked the protobionts to the modern organisms or the bacterial forms. ठीक है? So they were self-replicating metabolic capsules containing macromolecules like RNA, proteins and polysaccharides. Now, एक क्वेश्चन था, एक स्टेटमेंट रू मन पकाओ और बुझो. ठीक है? क्या? That out of the DNA and RNA genetic materials, पहले कौन आया? What came first? Answer is RNA. Ribonucleic acid. तो पहले डीएनए नहीं, पहले आरएनए आया. आरएनए रू डीएनए फॉर्म है. ठीक है? Why? Because RNA has that extra oxygen present in it. Yes? That makes it more prone to mutations. Now, because of the mutation, it can modify itself and result in formation of other macromolecules. ठीक है? So reverse transcription करी परिबो, reverse transcription करी कौन तैयारी होबो? DNA. So RNA से DNA बन सकता है. That is reverse transcription. And RNA being pretty reactive or pretty mutating, so it can undergo several changes, and because of those changes, various types of evolutionary mechanisms can occur. ସେଥିପାଇଁ ପ୍ରଥମେ RNA simple molecule form ହେଲା, RNA ରୁ DNA form ହେଲା. Okay, so RNA came first. Remember this. ठीक है? How? Once that is done, then next we'll look into the evidences of evolution. Now, evidences evolution माने बुझो that evolution को जानिया पाएंगी when we start to look into the evidence, things available around us. So we come across various kinds of figures and various kinds of structures, various kinds of what we can say evidences located different parts like under the soil, okay, or even in our body. Many are there. So ସବୁ ଜିନିଷକୁ ମିଶେଇକି we form this concept that this is a mechanism of organic evolution. Okay, organic. So evolution can be now seen in so many different ways. ଯେମିତି କି for example, the most common जोटा कि ସମସ୍ତେ ଜାଣିଥିବେ is excavation. ସେମାନେ history ଯେତେବେଳେ ପଢୁଥିବ तो class 6 7th ରେ ପ୍ରଥମ ଥର ପାଇଁ you would have heard of Indus Valley civilization. Yes, मोहेंजोदारो रे excavations କରାଗଲା ମାନେ ଖୋଳାଖୋଳି କରାଗଲା and ସେଥିରୁ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ tools, art, crafts, ठीक है, and other forms of archaeological aspects came. तो ସେଇଟାକୁ ଦେଖିକି study କରିକି ତାର dating କରିକି time ଜଣା ପଡିଲା କେବେକାର civilization ହେଇଥିବ, ସେତେବେଳେ କେମିତି କଣ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଚଳଣି ଥିଲା, how they used to work, ତାଙ୍କର ଖାଦ୍ୟ କଣ ଥିଲା, ସେମାନେ କେମିତି ରହୁଥିଲେ, ତାଙ୍କର practices କଣ ଥିଲା, ସେତେବେଳେ ରୋଗ କଣ ହଉଥିଲା, mines etc କଣ କେମିତି ଥିଲା, okay, ସେଠୁ ବଞ୍ଚିବା ପାଇଁ ସେମାନେ କଣ କରୁଥିଲେ, what was the political scenario, the geographical scenario, ठीक है, economical scenario, ସେତେବେଳେ ଟଙ୍କା ପଇସା କେମିତି ଚଳୁଥିଲା. So all these were found out, but that was historical. ଆମେ same ଜିନିଷଟା କରିବା but with respect to scientific findings, means जोटा कि in the department of science ଆମକୁ ଜାଣିବାରେ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବ, understand କରିବାର ବୁଝିବାରେ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବ, and that will help us to predict two things. So knowing our past, we will pave the path for the future. It's a very nice thing. Our mistakes that we did in the past, problems that we saw or faced in the past, se jinsa gote janla pore ame taku correction karle our future can become secured. So understanding of the past is a very very important thing to pave the path for the future. ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ? So ସେଥିରେ categorization ଅଛି, various types. So these various types को हमें ना देलु as evidences for evolution. ठीक है, अब ध्यान दो कौन कौन evidences हमें पाइले और ताकू केमिति हमें categorize कर ले. ठीक है, तो पहली category is paleontological. Paleontology माने कौन रे बाबू? Paleontology implies the related to time scale. ठीक है, paleontology basically implies when something, any kind of happening or incident or a series of events are arranged in the form of timeline, geological timeline sequence, plus these will be based upon excavations. Excavations basically koya gole study of fossils is called paleontology. Study of fossils is called paleontology. A fossility kono jota ki amuku preserved remains achandi mati todu miluchandi ba ice ru miluchandi, they are known as fossils. ठीक अछि? So the study of fossils is called paleontology. So जेकोनसी fossil आमको मिला सेटा है गला उठे paleontological evidence. अरे बुझी पाल रे, is that clear? बच्चा समझा कि नहीं? Yes. Okay, good. Then comes morphological and anatomical evidences. Now ये क्या है? structure form माने for example आमे एबे human beings आमर एई form रे अछु ठीक अछि आमो body रे मध्य बहुत गुडी को structures अछंती tissues अछंती बा organs अछंती जो गुडी को are connected to our ancestors माने ancestors मानकर भी थिला आमर मध्य अछि there might be slight changes but differences in it एई जिनसटी को हमें morphological and anatomical evidences कहता हूं okay then good I'm happy that everyone is listening very attentively and with a lot of interest. Thank you very much. Okay, please continue the same good work. Yes. Okay. Biogeographical evidences. Now, biogeographical evidences mane amoro eta gote bahut interesting thing. Kind eta see how science is related to all things. This is a beautiful picture of that. Geology is the study of earth and its related aspects, right? So तमे माने एबे recently बहुत गुडी को news etc and concepts एटा देखिथिबो बा सुनिथिबो that earthquakes tsunamis and so on ठीक है तो जिनसटा कोन की our earth आमे जोडी रहुचे it is the crust मान the uppermost region ठीक है ता तळे रहिला mantle and तार innermost region रहिला core ठीक है say if this is the earth एटा हला तार crust एटा हला तार mantle and a region टा is the core ठीक है and the core is magma माने fluidic now when it is a fluidic thing तो obviously से move करूथिबो fluid है ना right say this bottle contains a fluid water तो ये अंदर में सर्कुलेट होता होगा मूव करता होगा and this is no ordinary fluid it is a fluid at a very high temperature तो ये मझिरे मूव करूथिबो pressure exists exert करथिबो due to chemical reactions etc occurring inside it ठीक है तो सेटा हैला बेले since the center is fluidic ऊपर solid है the movement of these fluids result in certain kinds of repercussions on the top ठीक है मतलब अंदर का अगर फ्लूइड मूव करने लगेगा जैसे मान लो इमेजिन दिस थिंग तमे गोटे डंगारे बसिच ठीक अछि डंगारे बसिच आप तो सेफ है डंगारे बसिच तो डंगा द बोट इज फ्लोटिंग ऑन वाटर तो वाटर रे एबे कोनोसी वेव्स नाही तो बोट आराम से रेस्ट पे है सडनली स्मॉल वेव केम तो बोट टिके ना को दोली लार्जर वेव आएगा तो थोड़ा और जोर से दोलेगा ठीक है बुझ पाछन नहीं सेम वे इमेजिन दिस वन जेतले कोर भीतर से भलिया किछि चेंजेस हबो ठीक है तो इट विल आल्सो सेंड दोस wave like things ठीक है wave माने we are talking of energy waves onto the surface ठीक है जोटी weaker spot थिबो vents थिबो से बाटे बाहर चेष्टा करिवो weaker vents आमे को vents कहिथाउ vents बाटे escape करे चेष्टा करिवो now because of that it will create cracks or fissures now because of cracks and fissures कौन हेता है seismic but tectonic movements earth रा surface रा crust रे there are tectonic plates kai ei jinso jo ame dekhu je crust and mantle eta gote solid piece नुहे these are in the form of layers ठीक है और plates तो plate गुडी को jigsaw puzzle वाले खंजा ही के अछंती understood Now, because of this, whenever there is a crack or fissure developed, तो ସେଇଟା କଣ କଲା ଦୁଇଟି ପ୍ଲେଟ୍ ମଝିରେ ଗୋଟେ ଗ୍ୟାପ୍ କ୍ରିଏଟ୍ କରିଦବ ବା ଉପର ତଳ କରିଦବ. Now these tectonic plates are not very light, na? They are like no huge. Fine. Now because of that, बेले बेले ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ଜାଗାରୁ shift ହେଇଯିବେ. ସେଇ ଜିନିଷଟା shift ହବ ନା ତାକୁ କଣ କୁହାଯାଏ? Continental drift. कौन खुआई रे बाबू? कॉन्टिनेंटल ड्रिफ्ट. आर एविडेंसेस ऑलरेडी आर देयर. ठीक है, हमर हिस्ट्री रे भी अच्छी, साइंस में भी है. आगुरु बहु जिनस गुड़िक थिला, जेमती की अफ्रीका, यूरोप, एशिया, ठीक है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, ये एक साथ में थे. Even South America and North America were together. मतलब it was a singular land mass. Singular land mass known as the Gondwana land. बुझपारछो? Antarctic and Arctic तो दूर थिले. This was a singular land mass. Now slowly there was this tectonic movements because of which ସେମାନେ ଅଲଗା ହେଲେ. North America, South America ଅଲଗା एक दूर पळेले. एपटे ऑस्ट्रेलिया दूर पळेला. ठीक अछि. And Europe, Africa and Asia तांको भितर मध्य gap create हेगला. And those gaps were filled up by who? Na seas and oceans. बुझ पालो? Our evidences कोन? There are many civilizations. There are many civilizations that were once very prosperous, now are present beneath the ocean. बुझपारछो? Engulfed by the ocean. काहे engulfed हेला? कौन हेगला एमती? Because land mass इधर पळेला बा तळुकु डिप हेगला and ता ऊपरे सी पळे आसला. Obviously एबे land ऊपरे अछि, सी एटी अछि. ठीक है, तो it cannot cover them. But suppose there is drift, तो तळु shift हेगला plate, एटा तळु पळेला. Once it has gone down, so it will be covered by the ocean, engulfed by the sea. बुझ पालो? There are many evidences, many. ठीक है, आपको एक छोटा मैजिक फैक्ट बताते हैं. शुणी के आश्चर्य हेजिबो. एबे जोउठी तमे the Himalayan range देखुचो, the Mount Everest, the Kanchenjunga, Mount Goodwin Austen, K2, etc. ସେଇଟା ଆଗରୁ କଣ ଥିଲା ଜାଣିଛ? That was a big sea known as Tethys. ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ସମୁଦ୍ର ଥିଲା, Tethys. Now Tethys ନାହିଁ, ତା ଜାଗାରେ Himalayan range create ହେଇଛି. Imagine this. ठीक है, about more than lakhs of years ago Tethys बोली ଗୋଟେ ସମୁଦ୍ର ଥିଲା ହେଠି. ठीक है, between the two land masses. But that Tethys was ended by these tectonic movements. So tectonic plates bade, they formed the entire Himalayan range. Entire Himalayan range. Eastern Himalayas, Karakoram, etc. ये सब जिनस तैयारी हेगले, covering the entire northern part and the western part of India. बुझ पारछरा? So this is the strength or power of tectonic movements. How dangerous they can be. They can shape the entire earth or change it anytime. Although जेहेतु these are not very frequent movements, तो जिनसटा slowly होता है. ठीक है, and आमो जोगु एटा आउरी fast होची because of our activities. Mining हेगला, what we can say, deforestations वगैरह हेगला, which we have increased the ecological succession rates. We have increased the weathering processes or fastened. The rate has been increased. So our human activities are actually increasing the rate of these tectonic movements and everything. Fine. And in one way we are calling this development, but on the other hand, we are actually creating our own massacre. Yes. So say जितनी दरकार सेतिकी, but more than that is always dangerous. ठीक है, चलो उसके बाद बायोजियोग्राफिकल बुझ पाला, इसको हम लोग यूज करेंगे टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ और व्हाट आर द इफेक्ट्स ऑफ geographical changes on the organisms. ठीक है, biochemical evidences already Harold C. Urey and Stanley Miller experiment we saw, same molecule soda, each and everything will go in details, but these are the evidences or categories of evidences. देखो, similarly embryological evidences achanti, yes, that is ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny, very interesting. ठीक है, at one stage এটা দেখাଯିବ that all vertebrates মানে ସେ ତମର କୁକୁଡ଼ା ଛୁଆ ହେଇଥାଉ বা ଛେଳି ଛୁଆ ହେଇଥାଉ বা human baby ହେଇଥାଉ বা ଗାଈ ବାଛୁରୀ ହେଇଥାଉ, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଡେଭଲପ କରୁଥିବେ inside the mother's uterus, ଗୋଟେ stage ଏମିତି ଆସିବ that they all would appear to be similar. This is what is ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny at a certain stage. Very interesting, we'll see that. That is called embryological evidences. ठीक है, even तुमने chordates में पढ़ी थी वो presence of gill slates, ठीक है, etc. etc. We'll come to that when we go in details. And lastly, evidences for evolution by natural selection. Natural selection. तो ये सबू जाक evidences हमें गोटे गोटे करिकी देखिबा. ठीक अछि ना? Okay, fine. So it is already 9 to do one thing. Take a 5-10 minutes break, and once we meet after the break, we'll continue from here. ठीक है? आप थोड़ा fresh हो जाओ, fine, and then we can continue. ठीक है? But जाना कहीं नहीं. Please stay there. And if you miss it, it will be an opportunity lost. ठीक है बच्चा? फटाफट जाओ and फटाफट आओ. Okay. See you soon. जल्दी जल्दी.